So if you have this inflammation, the inflammation is essentially blocking the connection, and it doesn't allow your muscle system to work as efficiently as it would if the inflammation was not there. Hey everybody, what's going on? This is going to be part 3 of the muscle activation series. For those of you who have checked out the first 2 videos, I really appreciate that. There's an upper body muscle activation warm-up, a lower body muscle activation warm-up, and in today's video what we're actually talking about is your pre-workout warm-up. So historically, many people would say, hey, when you go into the gym, you got to do your 3 to 5 minutes of cardio, and then you need to stretch, and then go ahead and start your workout. However, in today's video, we are answering the question, should you stretch before you lift? All that content is coming right up. So like I said, guys, historically, everybody's told us, hey, if you're tight, you should stretch. Makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, if you are tight, you should stretch. However, a few things that I've learned through a gentleman named Greg Roscoff and his program called Muscle Activation Techniques, and this is what I want to share with you guys today, is that stretching, if you're tight, may not be the best scenario. And in this video, I hope to explain exactly why. So I want to preface all of this by saying that I am mainly talking to anaerobic athletes, okay? Those of you who are causing some form of stress to your body, whether that be you're a power lifter and you're incorporating squats and deadlift numerous times per week, or if you're a bodybuilder and you're training everything twice per week and you're really driving home the volume, I hope to bring you guys some awareness in regards to some things that you can do to make sure that you're preparing yourself better before you go into the gym and attempt to crush a new PR. Alright, so if you think about stretching in and of itself, by itself, is a stress on the system. So you are essentially applying forces to the muscular system. That is a stress. Now, for those of you who are anaerobic athletes, and what I'm referring to is those of you who have undergone very high volume-like programs, probably utilizing some form of periodization, mainly daily undulated periodization was popular for a long time, and you are doing these very heavy compound movements, twice or more per week, it's likely that you've experienced pain in your hips, pain in your lower back, tightness in your knees, tightness in your ankles, tightness in your neck, tightness everywhere. So why essentially is that? Any form of stress, trauma, or overuse causes inflammation. Now, what is inflammation? Inflammation is essentially your body's defense mechanism to protect your range of motion within a specific movement pattern. So if you are one of these athletes who has, an accumulation of inflammation within a specific joint, and that in and of itself is affecting your range of motion. Normally when this stress, trauma, or overuse and this inflammation is present, it's going to affect the muscle's shortened position and likely the muscle's lengthened position. So it'll be very hard to get the muscle into a lengthened position or a shortened position just because your body again has created this defense mechanism that is inflammation, and it's trying to protect you from getting injured, because anytime inflammation is present, it's actually creating an unstable environment. So you'll probably notice that if you've ever done a resistance training program where you're bench pressing maybe 2, 3, 4 days per week, your shoulders actually, like your actual glenohumeral joints, over the course of a couple of weeks actually start to feel somewhat unstable. Like it doesn't feel like you can lock things in as tight. Maybe things start to get a little bit squirrely. And this is creating a very bad situation where you're essentially putting yourself in position to where you could risk an injury much faster than if you had actually allowed time to be able to have that inflammation rid the body. Now, how long that inflammation takes to get out of that joint, I'm not exactly sure of, but I would have to say that if you're taking care of yourself, and you're not necessarily overusing a specific joint, it could be, a week or less, maybe even a few days to a week. I think it really just does depend on how you choose to treat your body, and then also how much training volume you're actually doing. So we've all heard of this, minimal effective dose of training volume and maximal recoverable volume, which was quoted by Dr. Mike Israetel. If you guys are not familiar with him, I'd highly recommend you check out his work. But I think that there's a lot to be said for that, and I think that you really have to be able to apply a specific amount of volume that you can actually recover from. If I was to go in and do bench and I did 5 sets of 10 and I haven't done a flat bench in, I don't know, a few months, Like that amount of fatigue, that amount of stress that I've put on my glenohumeral joints, on my elbows, on my muscle fiber is a lot, and I'm likely going to have some inflammation the following day. So going back in and attempting a bench press the following day or even the day after likely would not be the best idea, because that inflammation is still present. And when that inflammation is present, it's creating an unstable environment. So I want to talk about powerlifting programming issues. Now, for those of you who were around during the rise of the daily undulated periodization model, I mean, we were just crushing ourselves. I mean, guys are waking up every morning like, oh my God, like we're literally sending each other text messages saying that, I feel like I got hit by a bus. This amount of volume is absolutely crazy. What the hell am I doing? 20,000 pounds of volume, 30,000 pounds of volume. I squat, I deadlift, I bench press. I'm accumulating 30,000 pounds of volume in one session. Like, what's the end? And the interesting thing there is that I don't believe that volume is just an infinite, measure of progress that you can just continue to increase, because again, this maximal recoverable volume kind of concept really does tell us different. And if you pay attention to the way that you feel, I really think you can grab a hold of what you're capable of performing based off of your sleep and your nutrients and all of that. How much are you actually capable of recovering from? Now, as an example, I can tell you that when I train my lower body, whether that be a hip hinge movement, whether that be a squat pattern, something like that, I can guarantee you that I will need at least 1.5 to 2 extra hours of sleep the day that night. And it's much different than when I train my upper body. I typically feel like I can recover my upper body really, really well, but for some reason it is a very hard neurological demand on my CNS when I'm training my lower body. So what I want to leave you guys with is the understanding that tightness oftentimes is a sign of weakness. Now keep in mind that that weakness could be correlated to the inflammation, the defense mechanism, the fact that the inflammation is actually causing a static connection, so it's not as strong. I guess you'd say a blurry connection from your central nervous system to your muscle system. So wrapping this up, how can we actually improve the nervous system connection to the muscle system? The first one is going to be with isometric contractions, which again, I will post these 2 videos down in the description down below, but you utilize a low-grade isometric contraction. We have a upper body warm-up routine, which I'll put down there, and then a lower body warm-up routine, which I'll put down in the description as well. And within those 2 videos, you're gonna notice I'm utilizing low-grade isometric contractions, really just trying to focus on squeezing the intended muscle to neurologically connect to that muscle so that my muscles can actually perform. Now, if there is inflammation present, and you can tell just by you being extremely tight or being extremely sore, I would actually recommend that you kind of auto-adjust your training program and give yourself an additional day to be able to recover from that training stress that you put on your system whenever you train that specific body part. So that's a little bit of information in regards to the mind-muscle connection, utilizing the principles within muscle activation techniques. I hope you guys found this video extremely helpful. Check out those upper body warm-ups and the lower body warm-ups, and feel free to leave me any questions you have down in the comment section. Once again, guys, I cannot take credit for this information. This was created by a gentleman named Greg Roskoff of MAT. And Greg, for you, I am ultimately eternally grateful, because this stuff has actually really helped me improve a lot of muscular imbalances that I've had, and it's also allowed me to be able to tune into my body and actually feel and know when I'm fully recovered, so I can repeat that bout of training once again. Instead of accumulating a ton of volume and feeling like trash like I did in the past, now I'm actually able to be consistent with my training and avoid injury. This is William Grazione with Metabolic Evolution Incorporated, where we're offering online nutrition coaching all around the world. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.